So today's been a massive day in the Sean Combs trial. One of the star witnesses really was in the dock today. Cassie Ventura used to go out with Sean Diddy Combs for 11 years, since she was about 21 years old or so. And she's the one who's claimed that she's been a victim in these so-called freak-off parties. She was being questioned by the prosecution, who were the government basically trying to prosecute Sean Combs. And by the end of the day, they still hadn't finished their questioning of her. So she's been on the stand all day. It's likely that her testimony could take several more days because she's going to have to be cross-examined by Sean Combs' defense as well. She is 8.5 months pregnant, heavily pregnant. She came onto the stand, clearly very pregnant and very softly spoken throughout the entire time. This is a long time ago for her now. She was a teenager really when she first met Combs. She was in her early 20s when she started going out with him, and now she's in her late 30s. At times, Cassie Ventura broke into tears when she was on the stand. One particular time was when she was questioned about whether there was anything she actually liked about these freak-off parties, and she choked up when she said that she liked actually having the opportunity to be intimate one-on-one with Sean Combs, because their relationship had got so distant that she felt like she almost couldn't be with him unless it was in one of these freak-off parties. Cassie Ventura claims that in New York's Trump Hotel, which overlooks Central Park, was essentially the first time that he performed oral sex on her. She said that she was very sexually unaware, very inexperienced, she said, and it was not something that she did or understood. And she left the hotel and went home and said that Combs made her feel crazy but not reciprocating oral sex on him. But she said, look, I didn't even know what was happening really. Cassie Ventura said there are essentially two sides to Sean Combs. There was the man that she loved and that she was in a relationship with and cared about deeply, and there was this other side to him. She said his eyes would go black. The version of him I was in love with was no longer there. So it was a pretty grueling testimony today, actually. There was a lot of detail in these so-called freak-off parties. And what they were was that only a few months after Cassie Ventura started going out with Sean Combs, she claims that he said he was a voyeur, that he wanted to watch her have sex with other men and kind of cajoled her into doing it. Now, she said she was originally receptive to the idea mainly because she wanted to keep him happy and because she loved him. But as time went on, she became less and less enthusiastic about it. But because she was a singer, she was signed to his label, she felt her entire career really depended on Sean Combs, and that she has claimed that he threatened to release videos of these sex parties online, which would potentially destroy her reputation. Now, the way these sex parties, she claims, worked was that Combs would select some male escorts or strippers or dancers to come over to one of his mansions or to a hotel. And then he would sit in a corner basically and direct these sex workers, escorts, to have sex with his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and then he would watch. He would masturbate from the corner. He would sometimes have sex with Cassie Ventura, she said, as well. And the men involved would get paid thousands of dollars, but only if they could do the business. If they couldn't finish, so to speak, they wouldn't get paid anything. Cassie Ventura said these freak-off parties were drug-fueled. There was ecstasy, cocaine, and she needed those to be able to actually perform. And sometimes these freak-off parties, she said, would go on for days, sometimes up to 4 days, and she wouldn't sleep. There was that much drugs in her system to keep her going. Before we even got to trial, there were already revelations about Sean Combs' love of baby oil. In one of the police raids in one of his mansions in Miami, they apparently found 1,000 bottles of baby oil, and that came up as a large part of the testimony today. Cassie Ventura said he was almost kind of obsessed by baby oil and lubricant. He would direct these scenes with her and male escorts. They would both need to oil up. They would need to glisten. They would need to shine. Sean Combs, it's alleged, would say that if they got too dry, they would have to slather some more oil on themselves to get shiny, and he would glisten up as well. At one point, she said in one of the hotel rooms, there was an inflatable swimming pool that was just full of baby oil and lubricant. And she, dressed in an outfit she'd got from a sex shop and high-heeled shoes, stilettos if you like, had to get into this pool and kind of dunk herself almost inside it. And she said that she did this because Sean Combs wanted it. It was his thing, but she found it all just very bizarre, very odd, and quite dangerous. She said that she was worried she'd do herself an injury. Now, Cassie Ventura said that these freak-off parties left her feeling humiliated, they left her feeling degraded, they left her feeling awful, that she hated doing them. She said that on a few occasions, Combs asked one of the male escorts to urinate on her, and he did as well on occasion. She said that she choked on urine, she said at one point. There was so much, and eventually it did stop. She said that Sean Combs wanted her to have sex whenever he wanted to have one of these parties, which were weekly, she said, at some points, including when she was on her period. She talked about how the sheets in the hotels they were in were covered with urine and blood sometimes because of the extent to where these parties had got to, and the whole thing had become a humiliating experience for her. Cassie Ventura isn't one of the only people that have taken the stand. One of the male escorts who had sex with her has also been in the witness box, and interestingly, he said that yes, urinating did happen, but it was Miss Ventura who instigated it, and she wanted it to happen. Well, she has said that she did not want to be urinated on at all in any of these situations. She was asked by the prosecution if she actually said, stop it, like, I don't want this to happen. And she admitted that she didn't, but she said there was nothing about her demeanor that welcomed it, and there was no suggestion that she was actually positive about it whatsoever. Now, a theme running all the way through Combs' trial so far is one of violence towards Cassie Ventura. There's been that very infamous CCTV video in a Los Angeles hotel where he drags her away from the lift by her hair. Cassie Ventura said that was not an isolated incident, that she was often getting beaten by Sean Combs, and sometimes it could be for simply looking at him the wrong way. She said, if I looked at him in a bad way, if my face wasn't right, then my face would get hit, she said. She said all of the injuries were very similar. They were busted lips, there were bruising all over her body, that happened again and again. Now, of course, Sean Combs' defense team have denied these charges. They haven't denied that he is a violent man. There is CCTV footage of him dragging Cassie Ventura, but they have said that the charges which he is up against, which include sex trafficking and extortion, they're not domestic violence charges. That whilst he may not be a role model, he may indeed have done violence towards her, that doesn't make him guilty of the charges which have been brought forward. They've also said that Cassie Ventura was a much more willing participant in these freak-off parties than she has been making out, and undoubtedly they're going to try and push that argument when it comes to her cross-examination. The trial is estimated to take anywhere between 8 and 10 weeks to complete, so there are many more witnesses to come. And so far, Sean Combs' family, his mother and his daughters and his sons, he's got 7 kids, have been there in the courtroom with him, milling around the court, and they've been having to listen to some extremely confronting testimony.